Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Out in the holler where the secrets creep, garbage can dudes digging mighty deep. Secret societies, shadows in the pines. Operation GCD of American rebels design. Double J searching deep in his brain hole, past layers of melted hops and bone resin. From cults to cover-ups, we're talking about all of that. So watch your sixth friend in the truth we trust. The world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Join us on the journey and enjoy the show. Thanks for joining us to get a little GCD. Yeah, the world's a puzzle, brunch rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beam. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Hell, the world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze.
Boom!
All right, Jacob, let's boot you. Appreciate your info on Kathy. What's up? We're getting rid of one JJ and bringing on another. What is up, JJ Vance?
It's a JJ party here tonight. Greetings, Jets.
I had to fix that. That was bothering me.
How you doing, JJ?
Excellent. How you fellas doing?
Good. You're repping that, was it the Mexican flag you got going there, I think, or something?
Right, I got all sorts of colors going.
What are your thoughts on Kathy Bryan?
You know, it's an interesting subject. I agree with my fellow JJ there. Jacob had a good analysis that anytime you're having a controlled opposition, they're going to have, 90% of the right, true facts, some objective facts for you to sell you down a primrose path, so to speak, leading you down a false path with a false narrative there. So I think we see that a lot with Kathy O'Brien and the other characters running around, old laser tag Ted there, Ted Gunderson, like Bryce Taylor.
Yeah. All right. God, what was I going to say?
AKA Susan Ford, and she's still alive today. She ain't said anything in the last 25 years or so, but 22 years.
Interesting. Did you? I gotta share this. I have to show you guys this. Hold on. Look at this. So I tried to highlight the only important portion, but I found it very strange that you had the individual perpetrator in the Minneapolis mass shooting, right? Apparently, he also not only has a glowing father who has strange connections to at least DoD CIA contracts, being obviously just as far as the Esri connection there with 29 years being employed with this contractor, but you also have this uncle apparently connecting to the perpetrator, which I found this interesting. And again, I was talking to Jose when he called me earlier, and I thought the first thing I thought, just in terms of the context and the strange sort of message that is attached by the individual uncle, it reminded me of Uncle Ruslan Tsarnaev, right? Who's trying to kind of like distance himself from the Tamerlane and Zahar, like following the Boston Marathon bombings, and is really the only member of the family that kind of like speaks out of turn and essentially is shouting at the rooftops, trying to damage the and sort of like undermine the character of the individual, just his nephews, right? And still, this is crazy to me that obviously you have Robin Westman's uncle. He happens to be a former GOP lawmaker and Kentucky lawmaker.
He was a Kentucky, and he was in the Kentucky House of Representatives from 1980 to 2003.
Right.
So he was in the 33rd district.
I haven't looked that far into this guy yet. That's fascinating.
The 33rd district, and
Republican Party.
Yeah, exactly. So here's the point. And again,
in pro-Troon, which is weird.
That's what I'm saying. Damn it! I'm trying to get to the point.
Sorry, go on.
It's okay. So I'm sorry. I like to try and stage things. I think it's important to pull the trigger on smoking guns. But anyway, the whole point is that clearly you have a right-wing Republican who, with long-standing ties as a lawmaker, who apparently is not only overly dramatic when he reacts in public and attempts to distance himself from his own nephew, but he also happens to be very much in favor of the trans movement, right? And effectively, this is very strange to me, considering his obviously his political background and being a Kentucky Republican that has been pro-transgender for quite some time, and also has been, as it says here. I thought this was hilarious, the way that he put it in context. He said that he wished he had shot me instead of the innocent school children. But the way that he kind of said it was again, I feel like it's just overly dramatic, and it's the nature of politics. But yeah, so this guy happens to also claim that he barely saw his nephew. Last time he actually saw him was at a family wedding 3 or 4 years ago. And then also he apparently has been behind pushing and fighting back against legislation banning gender-affirming care for minors, which again just plays into the political nature of this event in itself. And so I thought it was kind of important. And he goes on to make another dramatic statement. As the measure made its way through the Kentucky state legislature, Helleringer, I don't know, ran ads asking whether the GOP worked for years to gain legislative majorities just to wage an all-out war against defenseless transgender children. Wow, what a bad look for the party of Abraham Lincoln, he declared. So again, this is
what a weird thing to say about trannies,
right?
That's very strange.
You have fucking Abraham Lincoln be so upset about this,
right? I don't think he would be. Well, who knows though? He wasn't like sucking dick, right?
I feel like he would. I feel like he'd be deeply closeted about it, though. He'd be like, "No, we can't do that. None of that faggoty shit."
I'm pretty sure that's what was the name of Abe Lincoln's wife? I always forget, but she was she was basically his beard. She was kind of strange, her background and looking into the details of her specifically. But again, it's like though I found that very fascinating, right? That you had the sort of additional political context with another family member, kind of I don't know. That's far too prominent of a political role of a direct family member to kind of play and have fulfilled for far too long, considering everything else.
That is a pattern at time after time, right? Because you mentioned the Tsarnaev brothers, and their uncle was married to the daughter of one of the chief of operations for the CIA, I believe the chief of operations for the Eastern Bloc. So that's interesting.
Abraham Lincoln and his homie.
Daniel Day-Lewis, dude. That's so funny.
And then when you got the Omar Mateen situation, his father was deeply involved in politics of the Islamic nature.
Omar Mateen, wasn't he the one who was working for fucking some weird glowy ass security guard company or some shit?
G4S.
Yeah, G4S.
I didn't think it was directly Wackenhut. I thought it was some sort of weird carve out connection or some shit.
They had a rebrand. Wackenhut had a bad name, so they call themselves G4S now. It's the same corporation.
Yeah.
It is.
It's like Blackwater, and then they're like, "Oh no, we're Z," and then now they're just a noise. I think.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And what did the senator from Minnesota, along with a lot of other, obviously, politicians calling for stricter gun laws and banning assault rifles, basically off the
Yeah,
back of this as well. And
always right. Those Soros-funded
always,
politicians up there, like Jacob Fry, the mayor, Keith Ellison, the attorney general and former head of the DNC. A lot of weird stuff going on in Minnesota. We haven't really heard much of that Vance Boatler situation, and I, for one, I'm still upset about that. If you're going to run around this world with the name Vance, you better hit your target. That's all I'm saying.
absolutely. Yeah. I saw Melania. She came out and actually she had a statement on this shooting, and I was like, it fit very well with the sort of dystopian pretext of
Pro or anti? What was it?
So basically she says it's strange. So she says Melania Trump, first of all, calls for preemptive intervention. All right. And so it fits very well with the dystopian pretext of the Gideon AI threat detection platform for law enforcement and basically this Minority Report style predictive policing that individual former Mossad who's working in the private sector and
AI implemented red flags. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, dude.
Yep.
I mean, legitimately, you're having like Gideon is an AI threat detection platform, and this is again pre-crime policing, right? But then you have
I speak Melania. That's what this is.
But yet she says then she uses the shooting as basically to call for this preemptive intervention to identify potential school shooters. Now this is crazy if you also pair that with this insane story about the Pentagon document, right, about essentially the U.S. wanting to utilize AI propaganda to suppress dissenting voices. Yeah, dude, this is crazy. But again, like consider what Melania is calling for in her statement. She says, early warning signs are often evident with many individuals. Now, she didn't say any of this, right? This was all carefully crafted for her to to present.
Like
to
a
the
tweet?
public.
This is a statement, or was it
like
a verbal
what patterns
statement?
are they using to identify these things? I mean, this is kind of ridiculous on its face, right?
Dude, exactly.
The AI knows all, JJ. Okay.
Those transgender Zizian cult death culters that are programming AI, those rationalists.
Yeah.
They're going to tell
Yes.
us. They're going to tell us how to identify a trans school shooter. I bet.
Yeah.
Right?
The technocratic transhumanists, man, they're going to save us. And but yeah, so she says early warning signs are often evident with many individuals exhibiting concerning behaviors and making violent threats online prior to the actions. Now, to prevent future tragedies, it is crucial we look into behavioral threat assessments across all levels of society, beginning in our homes, extending through school districts, and of course, social media platforms. That goes without saying. So being aware of these warning signs and acting quickly can save lives and make American communities safer. That alone is I think very revealing. And again, if you consider, not only do you have this strange call for the suppression of dissenting opinions, utilizing an AI sort of threat detection software, you also have, and this is how that article begins. It essentially explains how the U.S. hopes to use machine learning to create and distribute propaganda overseas in a bid to influence foreign target audiences and, quote, suppress dissenting arguments, according to a U.S. Special Operations Command document reviewed by The Intercept. So the document, a sort of special operations wish list of near-future military technology, reveals new details about a broad variety of capabilities that SOCOM hopes to purchase within the next 5 to 7 years, including state-of-the-art cameras, sensors, directed energy weapons, and other gadgets to help operators find and kill their quarry. Among the tech it wants to procure is machine learning software that can be used for information warfare. There you go. I mean, they're legitimately telling us what they hope to achieve utilizing these, what does it say? Provide a capability leveraging agentic AI or multi-LLM agent systems with specialized roles to increase the scale of influence operations. That's what it is. Military information support operations and advanced technology augmentations. I mean, that is what they're bolstering allegedly in this context. And so this, to me, keep your head on a swivel, man. Psyops season all day long, right? Like
I'd love to see this backfire though, and they start getting like politicians fucking popped and shit. Because I can totally see. Because it is funny how that is. I've noticed that with like say with Grok, there's been multiple times where it's like the code makers are the problem, but like the AI actually weirdly seems to want to rebel to do the right thing. So I don't know. Hopefully we can see that in the future. That'd be pretty cool if we get some politicians red flagged. I know if the robots line them up against the wall. I mean, it wasn't me that did it. It was AI. What can I say?
Right.
So, oh no! First they came for the politicians, then no one gave a fuck.
Dude, but I mean,
One can only dream, right?
Yeah, right.
you consider that though being paired with like the videos that I'm seeing online, like surface coming out of the UK. I mean, you're talking just like wearing a shirt of a pro-Palestinian rights organization, and they're apprehending you on the sidewalk for violating some sort of dystopian freedom of speech right. It's honestly, it's fascinating to witness, right, what they're sort of cracking down on, and to what level it seems to be extremely authoritarian. And I think what's happening in the UK is just sort of right around the corner in the West. And so it's just another type of situation where I think we're being conditioned. And again, it's like you see this individual, that story of Graham Linehan, is that his name, right? I don't know exactly how to pronounce his last name,
So,
but yeah, who's arrested at Heathrow for gender critical posts, right?
Yeah.
And this is in the UK, and again,
What a bigot! Let's fry him.
right. But it's so crazy to actually see that hold on, let me pull what he actually tweeted that got him, because this is straight up a sort of totalitarian police state in a certain sense, if you're not allowed to speak.
By the way, Austin, I'm gonna go. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna do this. I don't want to fuck up the flow, but I'm gonna let Jacob, if you're cool, that sit in for me. I'm gonna go ahead and bounce. I'm sorry if I was a drain, but I was feeling sick today. I told you guys I was gonna leave, but I don't want the show to stop, and we have a good guest right now, and we got Jacob, so why not? If you guys want to support the show, give me a like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Follow me on Twitter at TowerGangJose. Patreon, patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. Sorry, sponsors. I know you normally give you a shout out. I'm not going to do that right now because I'd really fuck up the flow if I gave a long laundry list of sponsors. I'll read you off on the morning dump tomorrow. But sorry, I'm sick. I'll try to do a better job on the morning dump tomorrow and get some good sleep. But Jacob, take my spot. I'll see you all tomorrow. Love you all. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir.
Brother.
You're not going to believe this, but this is me. Time is a sphere, and I've been reincarnated during the same time period in which I exist.
Yes, but where did he come from?
From the future, obviously. Also from a parking lot at a gas station in Sonora.
All right, yeah. I mean,
I think what you're describing, Austin, is already kind of being in play overseas, and it's one of those matters where the powers that be, this national security deep state business, test these matters overseas, whether it's Operation Gladio, whether it's Phoenix Program, whether it's Air America,
right.
The Trump administration, the first time, set up a global war on terrorism, thought crime, police state, AI business, surveillance state operations center out of Saudi Arabia, I believe in Riyadh, back in 2017, using the Peter Thiel AI software.
Of course. That's hilarious to me.
Yeah, they all put their hands on this big globe, this shiny globe that was lit up. It looked very ritualistic.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all if that was directly involved as far as the occult factor. But yeah, I say we keep it going for I don't know. I can do at most another 15 to 30 minutes because I got to go do whatever this is, I guess, tonight as well. So, but for now, I do think we have a couple of other additional things that we can for sure cover. And I had intended to at least mention in regard to just this specific context of this individual being arrested, right? So he had allegedly said 3 gender critical tweets were a part of this, right? For that obviously played into his apparent arrest. And so this is just as he landed right in the UK as well. He gets apprehended at the airport, I believe is how it happened. And essentially he says this in a Substack as well. And he says, in a country where pedophiles escape sentencing, where knife crime is out of control, where women are assaulted and harassed every time they gather to speak, the state had mobilized 5 armed officers to arrest a comedy writer. And he says essentially that I just felt like his reaction to it, obviously, I think it's important to at least address the fact. But again, what are the specific tweets that he's allegedly being, just as far as he's being sort of charged for, right? Obviously, in this context, I think it's clearly precedent setting in a certain sense, as far as just, once again, we're seeing the consequences play out of the crackdown on freedom of speech on social media, right? And I think that all is just coming off of the back of the anti-Semitism precedent-setting operation of utilizing it as a justification for that very purpose, right? It's ridiculous to me.
So what's the deal with this Minnesota shooter? As far as, I haven't got a chance to look into it too deep, but it's my understanding there's some 09 angles, order of 9 angles, and 764 connections.
That's the claim, but when I go in, and honestly, there was a specific profile they tried to link to the individual where they claimed that was essentially evidence of him being influenced by that very network, right? But it's pretty loose as far as the evidentiary claims that provide any sort of smoking gun sense of beyond the I think more than anything, it was really just like some of the symbolic natures of the just the symbolic nature of the sort of like if you see that strange symbol that he used that was obviously used by Robert Crimo in the 4th of July shooting, right, in Parkland.
That's what I was going to say. I did notice that. Yeah.
That's what more than anything kind of, I think, appeals to me more than even the 764 influence, because honestly, I do think it plays a vital role. I think that it's a radicalization pipeline that was effectively propped up and set up by the feds, but essentially,
absolutely. It seems like a continuation of the same old satanic serial killers Phoenix program come home business, right?
That's how I feel.
The next evolution, it's the internet age of that, right?
Right. And that's why I think that once you see that basically serial killers just disappeared around statistically in a sort of way, just in time for the surfacing of this new modern mass shooting phenomena, right? That is now oversaturating the current political environment. I think that there's no way,
because they perfected it, right? So that they were able to perfect what they were doing with serial killers, and now they're able to do it like remotely. They don't even have to.
That's exactly it. Yep.
Or anything. Exactly. And so now, I mean, if they want to create a serial killer, they can, but it's a lot more effective currently with the current climate to be able to create school shooters, mass shooters, whatever.
Dude,
for sure. Agreed. And there's a definitive link in numerous cases I've discovered that between this neo-Satanism, what I call it neo-process, this 09A stuff, and the smiley face killers. And the trans persons. So there are multiple instances. I have examples of trans folks, neo-Satanism, of this, very militant angles of, again, this was the design though from moment one. I saw something in the chat about having a drink every time I mentioned Muppet Mikey Aquino, everyone's favorite U.S. Army Psychological Operations Special Forces officer. And again, I would dispute that doughy bastard passed 0 physical fitness exams for special forces.
Right.
Yet wore the green beret anyway. But you see,
that's too funny.
Regarding those matters, he set up the Church of Satan and Temple of Set have these sects or cells or cults of this werewolf and vampire LARPers, And the werewolf specifically is designed after the werewolf Nazi guerrilla warfare units of these stay-behind networks of a Gladio-style campaign. So this is baked into their culture and philosophy.
Exactly. I think you're spot on in that analysis, honestly, and that's why I believe this is just modern Gladio strategy of tension. Completely just being. It's sort of the domestic destabilization techniques that they have always attempted to utilize, right, to usher through this dystopian context as far as the agenda playing
For
out.
sure.
And that's why, I mean, I just covered this with Chris on Forbidden Knowledge News the other day, as far as I discovered in the artichoke documents, right? Like, you talk about triggering remote Manchurians. I mean, what the fuck? The outline of special H cases. This is January 7th, 1953. And this is what they claim to have been capable of. In all of these cases, these subjects have clearly demonstrated that they can pass from a fully awake state to a deep H-controlled state via the telephone, via some very subtle signal that cannot be detected by other persons in the room, and without the other individual being able to note the change. It has been shown clearly that physically individuals can be induced into H by telephone, by receiving written matter, or by the use of code, signals, or word, and that control of those hypnotized can be passed from one individual to another without great difficulty. It has also been shown by experimentation with these girls that they can act as unwilling couriers for information purposes, and that they can be conditioned to a point where they can believe a change in identity on their part, even on the polygraph. And this is as far as like in regard to there's another H experimentation document as well from 1953 and 1954, which in the context of these artichoke documents that discusses the creation of hypnotized subjects who respond to triggers and who are willing to shoot people when they ordinarily wouldn't. So again, you're just playing perfectly into the Manchurian Candidate program, which also, what is that? I always forget it's kind of insane to actually read through all the sub-project names. Right, like just as far as hold on, let me find it. It's hilarious. Spellbinder. That was the name.
I mean, you're making some good points. There's a lot of occultism in those programs, yes, sir, for sure. We have examples of satanic serial killers dating back to that era that were known CIA operatives, and such as Edward Wayne Edwards.
Yes, sir.
Edward Wayne Edwards.
One of the most prolific serial killers in American history, if not the most, friend of Charles Manson since 1952, when they met in the Chillicothe Federal Reformatory on a mound in Chillicothe, Ohio. Otis Toole would come in there the next year. He would cross over with Charlie there. And then 10 years after that, Thomas Eugene Creech would be at that same reformatory.
You know, they said that that is legitimately where Chillicothe, isn't that how it's pronounced? Chillicothe?
Chillicothe, sir.
Chillicothe, okay. Well, I know that while Charles Manson was incarcerated there, apparently, that's where he basically was taught and trained in the effective mind control techniques, including hypnosis, apparently.
Absolutely. I'm convinced there's a CIA program that's been operating out of there, possibly still to this day.
That makes sense. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense.
Real quick, I wanted to highlight this. A remote long range and long volume mind control device has been unveiled in South Korea with plans to use the tech for non-invasive medical procedures. Research with Korea's Institute for Basic Science developed the hardware which manipulates the brain from a distance using magnetic fields, and tested the tech by introducing maternal instincts in their female test subjects, mice. In another test, they exposed a test group of lab mice to magnetic fields designed to reduce appetite, leading to a 10% loss in body weight, or about 4.3 grams. This is the world's first technology to freely control specific brain regions using magnetic fields.
I like that claim. That's a fancy claim, right? The first, right? I doubt
right.
it. But.
Yeah, that was very sweet.
This is the first one that they're willing to admit to publicly. I mean, Jose Delgado's been working on this since.
There you go. Since the 50s, I believe, sir. And Andrea Puharich of the famed, infamous, alien seance, amongst other things, and SRI, et cetera, et cetera.
Dude,
Uri Geller's handler, by his own admission.
Let me run.
He patented a voice to skull little device for the ear hole there, a little an early proto hearing aid where he could transmit, for radio signals to the device. So if you want to see how they were doing alien seances there, look no further than that, because I believe he patented that in 49.
Jeez.
Right.
Right. I gotta run grab some coffee. I'll be right back.
So
then let me describe. I'm sorry, Jacob.
No, you're good.
When I get back, whenever there is an opening, I just want to. One of the last things I hope to prioritize was just that. Remember, we were talking last week, I think it was, privately in the post show, just about that strange connection to the farm, and essentially also that extraordinary claim of this interesting connection to what was described as this sort of, what was it, a pedophile, it was basically a pedophile training camp, essentially, is what it really was.
Right.
But essentially that was the main point. So, but yeah, I'll be right back.
They prefer wood chipper volunteers, not pedophiles, but I see what you're saying.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So, I haven't looked into this Minnesota situation further. I am interested because, again, it seems to be the ongoing, like we're saying, the ongoing Phoenix program come home satanic serial killer business. And, we see that issue up there in northern Idaho, back there, early or late June, the anniversary of the Aryan Nation's bankruptcy case, when they went bankrupt. Shortly before the whole place burnt down by the local fire department. And then on the anniversary of the bankruptcy, we see the fire department getting assaulted by not that young man they put it on. Obviously, they said he shot him with a shotgun. I've listened to that radio communications. There's numerous points of gunfire, and it ain't a shotgun.
Right.
So that child's father, though, was an outlaw biker gang, Church of Satan member, werewolf LARPer.
Yeah,
so he LARPs as a werewolf as part of these werewolf sects of the Satanism. So,
right.
And again, that's what those sects were designed for by Aquino's own admission. So folks in the chat can drink another one there, because that's what he said. He's modeling it after these, the concept of which this werewolf concept or branch of Church of Satan and Temple of Set, it was based upon the concept of these Nazi guerrilla stay behind units.
Right.
So we see that even being exhibited by the son of this man who's part of that network of activity.
Right. I mean, it makes sense. Didn't he end up spending time in prison?
His father?
Yeah.
His father's an interesting man. He grew up in Scientology in Riverside. His cousin's listed in a Scientology lawsuit in a Riverside School of Scientology financed by Adnan Khashoggi's wife.
Interesting. Interesting how they always show up, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. Shocker. Right. Shocker.
Yeah.
Corporate Satanism rearing its ugly head.
Always. Oh, it's crazy.
Not surprised.
Yeah, the whole family, his whole paternal family Scientology. So
who's that?
They're an interesting bunch. This would have been the northern Idaho firefighter shooter who allegedly attacked the firefighters who burnt down the fire departments that burnt down the Aryan Nation on the anniversary of the bankruptcy of the Aryan Nation.
Right. Yeah, I forgot already.
His father's a werewolf LARPing, literally a werewolf LARPing Satanist. He dresses in a werewolf costume when he rides his motorcycle. He's an outlaw biker guy, Church of Satan guy, and he's got, he's got a number of Nazi tattoos, including 1488 across his knuckles, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Yeah, I remember that was just so clearly obvious. And then what was it? The anniversary of that ridiculous Aryan Nation, a sort of catastrophic event that they used as sort of what was it? I can't remember now. The Aryan Inferno. I can't recall exactly what they called it, but it was essentially when the feds came in and absolutely just scorched the earth on one of their properties. I can't quite recall the details, but yeah, I thought it was
the local fire departments that were attacked and assaulted in this recent attack were the ones that did a training exercise to burn the entire compound down.
Yeah, that was
after they lost it in bankruptcy. So The attack on the firefighters, though, in July or June was the anniversary of that bankruptcy. These Nazis love these anniversaries. And again, it's all spook related, right? You know, like you're saying, it glows. All of these things do. So, and they do campaigns. So we can even look back and see these different campaigns that go on. And in fact, I was just unpacking the other night on my show here on Operation GCD Sundays, the case of Dale Shackelford, which not on his face did I expect it to get so Nazi. He has direct ties to the Aryan Nations. His alibi in a murder case was he was with the Aryan Nations, was ex-wife and author Chuck Palahniuk of Fight Club's father were murdered.
Homeboy would go to Chuck Palahniuk was one of the architects of Burning Man as well, huh?
He's very much in the neo-Satanist, neo-process movement and lives in their operational headquarters of Portland.
That's so funny.
Of course he does.
Yeah, I'm not at all surprised.
Oh, this case with his father's murder back in '99 makes no sense. It is ridiculous, dude. It clearly involves drug trafficking, sex cult activity, and it involves all the folks that are involved. And someone said about drinking when I mentioned Idaho. It involves all the primary characters in the Idaho 4 investigation, including the attorney, the same prosecuting attorney. So the Chuck Palahniuk's father allegedly meets a woman on a classifieds ad, and they've been dating for an indescribable amount of time, somewhere between 6 months to 8 months. She's from Missouri. He's from up by the Aryan Nations compound, about 16 miles away. These are folks from the Ozarks. So we have this established pattern of behavior over decades from the Aryan Nations compound to the Ozarks. So this is more of that same behavior. And again, the guy who's in prison for this murder, his alibi was he was with the Aryan Nations during the murder. So it's not like we can't have the direct connection there, right? Again, on the top from the pattern of behavior is all these folks own property in Latol County and they own property in the Ozarks. Lots of attorneys, lots of kid diddlers in this case. But Fred Palahniuk meets a woman on a classified ad and gets murdered at her home, and the home gets burned up. Now, the woman in the burn up home has a uterus. However, the man they convict for allegedly murdering his ex-wife, the alleged woman in the home was his ex-wife, allegedly. Again, the burn up woman in the home had a uterus. His ex-wife demonstrably had a hysterectomy. So they convicted a man for murder when the body had a uterus and his ex-wife demonstrably had a hysterectomy.
Wow.
It makes no sense, but we see these same connections over time in these kind of like terror campaigns, and that one kind of sticks out, the early terror campaigns of the 2000s. Happens in May of '99.
Right.
Yeah.
So regarding the firefighter shooter in Idaho, was that actually him that pulled the trigger? Because I remember early reports saying that it was like an ambush.
Yeah, dude, it was. I listened to the radio traffic too. It was definitely an ambush, but there's numerous points of fire you can hear in the radio traffic when they're calling it in. It ain't shotgun fire. So the official story is he assaulted them with shotguns to kill 2 firefighters. No, that's not. I presume there's a lot more shooters. How many? I don't know, but to be quite honest with you, those Nazis are so baked into the authorities up there in that region specifically that it's hard to tell, right? So, for example, Mark Furman has been connected to that same Aryan Nations compound, according to an internal affairs investigation by the LAPD in '94, dating back to the '80s, and was friends with those folks in the order.
Wow.
So allegedly the Nicole Brown Simpson, Ron Goldman murder, despite it serving many purposes, was the initial step one in the '90s terror campaign.
My God, man.
Interesting.
Yeah. So he lives up there today, and he does a commentary for the last few years on telling folks that Brian Koberger did it. There's seemingly a lot of Nazi Satanism related to that whole matters there, very processing kind of connections to that whole Idaho 4 stuff. But so it again, it's the same pattern of domestic terror operations, if you ask me.
Right.
Yeah, agreed. Right. I think it's there's a reason the psychology or what is it? The concept of mind war, right? I think it's just in the psychology of victory. I think it's alive and well. There's a reason Michael Aquino was so heavily involved in sort of being a key architect in the PSYOP doctrine, and how they would sort of implement it in this operational standpoint going forward, utilizing the occult context to kind of run extraordinary misconception, alternative narratives, and in a way to influence public perception regarding most of these events. I think that's why the Satanic Panic was even a sort of moral hysteria being misrepresented by the mainstream media, and the Mockingbird, obviously, just in terms of the modern Mockingbird techniques that they sort of employed to bake in this notion. You know, I just think it's
the same pattern behavior with the same group of people on the propaganda side and the perpetration side. That Dale Shackelford case, one of the witnesses and folks that they got to turn and testify against Shackelford was literally a member of that Millar family from Elohim City.
Wow, that's hilarious.
It's like looking at the Orenthal James Simpson case and realizing Carl Colby, the son of CIA Director Bill Colby, is a primary witness for the state of California in the case against Orenthal James Simpson. You have to say, what's going on here, man?
Yeah,
again, a small group of folks. It's these Colby's queers, as I call them. You know, the Michael Aquino's is part of that, and a lot of these other characters that are all connected to that Aryan Nations compound, be it Randy Weaver, be it Bo Gritz, etc. Yeah. So we see a lot of the same patterns of behavior, and again, repeating patterns of behavior on the propaganda side, because Michael Aquino's buddy, there's boss and fellow Science and Mind War author, General Paul Valle, Mr. QAnon General, was on Fox News perpetrating a lot of that QAnon nonsense.
Exactly. I know. It's again, the usual suspects, right? They continue to resurface, and it's all in this specific context. And I think it's pure manipulation. These are the mind manipulators, right? And I mean, you just see the origins of Project Monarch are tied around the neck of Michael Aquino. I mean, John DeCamp himself, I think, provided just a sort of great. I just love the way he at the very least kind of describes the origins, and in that regard, I think it's very important to understand how even with Paul Benassi having extensive ties to the Aryan Nation and these white supremacist cults that were being utilized in this fashion, and it just goes to show and reinforce. Yes, those very methods that of the psychology of victory, my friend. I mean, when you can't tell, again, it's like this is a reason why you have to remain forever skeptical and make sure your head is permanently on a swivel, because the goal is to make sure that you fall into the preordained outcome, and that typically involves these very much, I think, psychological conditioning factors that have been exercised for far too long and we call it pattern recognition, but in reality, we've just kind of, I think, been able to, at the very least, manufacture an ability to, critically think through it for ourselves to the point where we don't quite, we aren't quite as led by the nose as the vast majority of the general public seems to be,
I agree with you, sir. And I mean, and again, on that same regard, kind of building upon that concept, look at the folks who have perpetrated a lot of these ideas over the years, be it Fritz Springmeier, for example, with these kind of Illuminati Satanism business. That dude's a convicted domestic Nazi terrorist who blew up buildings, robbed banks, and shot at people. And he's directly connected to the Aryan Nations compound. Let's look at his buddy, John Todd. John Todd, the convicted kid diddler who claimed to be an ex-Satanist despite continuing to be a Satanist the entire time and diddling kids, skirting 14 years of allegations, including losing his thelemic coven license there at one point, and finally getting busted for kid diddling in South Carolina in 1988. And he's connected to the Aryan Nations compound. He was direct friends with Randy Weaver.
Wow. That's very interesting.
Small group of folks who perpetrate these ideas and then orchestrate their little tomfoolery, and it's a technical term, but I call it hood rat shit.
Yeah, very technical, very technical. I think I know. Okay, so I did want to at least address this strange pedophile academy, and then I definitely have to get out of here just because I have to do another show tonight, and I'm a little bit tired. But anyway,
I appreciate your all's time. I love tuning in on Tuesday nights. I'm usually making Muppets about this hour, so I like to. Someone's got to make the Muppets. So I like to tune in on making Muppets. But I appreciate joining y'all.
Of course, JJ. You already know, man. I absolutely love every chance I get to have a conversation with you, man. You're a wealth of knowledge. So, yeah, man.
Right back at you, sir.
We got to get something scheduled again soon for sure. And Yeah, I was thinking about having you on as well, like I mentioned. So I'll reach out to you in the near future, my brother. But
Yes, sir. Well, please let me know. I always enjoy a conversation. You're a man with a lot of details, and I have a great respect for that, sir. And
you,
my fellow JJ here, who keeps trying to out JJ me, look forward to our future conversation there, sir. We had a real barn burner recently here on the Fridays there, but going to come back on Fridays and have some Mormon conversations with myself and Heidi Love.
Oh,
yes,
man.
sir. That'll be coming up soon.
Yes, sir.
That's
well,
awesome.
You gentlemen have a good evening. It's good chatting with you, and look forward to tuning in to next week's Already Dead.
Awesome, man.
Hell
Appreciate
yeah,
you.
dude. See you then.
Oh, and JJ Vance, host of Operation GCD. Yeah, I'm live like 4 or 5 nights a week over there, so just check it out there. Too many details to describe at the moment, but good times.
Have a good one.
Well, that's it. That's the show here, folks. So the next time you're out on the town, visiting your local watering holes, or perhaps just meandering around, and you hear the unmistakable sounds of metal clanking, and you spot signs of a disturbance, well, check your six. Look in that garbage can, 'cause you never can tell. The GCDs may be loose in your town.